High in the Sierra, among the Ponderosa and Jeffrey pine forests in Alpine County, California, the Carson River begins its 184-mile journey to the Great Basin. The river's east and west forks quickly grow, from tiny mountain brooks to steep rushing streams. After tumbling down mountains and carving through the foothills, they cross the state line into Nevada. Still in the shadow of the Sierra, the two forks merge to form the river's main stem near Genoa. The Carson River then flows north from Douglas County into Carson City before turning eastward through Carson River Canyon into Dayton and Lyon County's beautiful Cottonwood Galleries. Precipitation from the Virginia Range in Story County adds water to the river before traveling on to Silver Springs and flowing into Lahontan Reservoir. Its journey continues from the Lahontan Reservoir's outlet through Churchill County's farmlands to the Carson Sink and the Stillwater National Wildlife Refuge, providing important habitat for shorebirds, waterfowl, and other wildlife. But the Carson River's influence spreads much further than its banks. All the land that contributes snow and rain to enhance the river's flows comprises the Carson River Watershed. Stretching from high alpine peaks across the California border to marshy wetlands far out into the Nevada desert, the Carson River watershed totals over 3,900 square miles. Water is a precious commodity in northern Nevada, just like in much of the arid West. For tens of thousands of years, water has determined where people settled and lived. From the ancestors of today's Washoe and Paiute Shoshone tribes to the prospectors and ranchers who came west during the Comstock Gold and Silver Rush, people have settled in the Carson River watershed for life-sustaining waters of the Carson River. People longing for wide-open spaces still come from all over to live in the Carson River watershed, making it one of the most desirable places to reside in the nation. But as communities around the river have grown, there's more pressure on this once seemingly boundless resource than ever before. The watershed's growing population, expanding industry, and historic agricultural production has put our river system under an increasing amount of pressure. With this in mind, the Nevada legislature tasked the Carson Water Subconservancy District, the CWSD, to coordinate the integrated watershed management process for the Carson River.
The Carson Water Subconservancy District was originally formed in the 1950s to work with the farmers and the federal government to pay back a debt on a proposed dam on the East Fork of the Carson River. This project was ultimately abandoned due to the costs and environmental impacts. In 1989, the Nevada legislature changed the purpose of CWSD to promote watershed management through cooperative action.
CWSD is a unique regional watershed agency that's directed by 14 board members from 6 counties and 2 states. They're elected officials, agricultural producers, and citizens who represent their communities.
These policymakers meet monthly to oversee the regional projects and program which CWSD funds, plans, and coordinates for the benefit of our watershed and its residents. Rural and urban communities depend on the Carson River's water for agriculture, environmental, and municipal uses. Balancing these needs requires integrated watershed management.
So integrated watershed planning focuses on managing and sustaining our diverse watershed resources. CWSD coordinates the Carson River Coalition, or CRC, a watershed-wide stakeholder group, to inform and guide this integrated watershed management process.
The Carson River Coalition stakeholder process was launched after the 1997 flood. Local officials, natural resource managers, residents, and business owners gathered at the 1998 Carson River Conference to better understand and manage the health of the river's resources and identify ways to prevent future flood damage.
The different working groups in the CRC act as steering committees for our programs and our projects. Everyone's welcome to participate. The knowledge received and the input given is key to successfully implementing our integrated watershed management process.
The Carson River Coalition is still going strong after 20 years. CWSD continues to spearhead integrated watershed management efforts to keep our watershed healthy and provide a sustainable resource that is balanced between its users. CWSD fosters a healthy Carson River watershed by striving to improve the watershed conditions of its land and waters for the benefit of its residents, wildlife, and visitors. Our goal is for a vibrant and healthy watershed today and into the future. CWSD's integrated watershed management incorporates a number of initiatives to rehabilitate and stabilize riverbanks, restore natural function to the river and its floodplain, provide clean water for all users, maintain a stable water supply, combat invasive species, sustain healthy riparian and upland habitats, and inform residents of challenges and encourage them to act to protect watershed health. This is no small task, but together, we're making progress. Today, we are living with the impacts of past human activity. Attempts to constrain the river and straighten its broad bends have prevented it from running a natural course and accessing its floodplain. This has resulted in a more channelized river, with increased erosion and excess sedimentation.
So you can see the impacts from straightening the river, channelization, diversion dams, up and down the whole river system. CWSD spends a lot of its efforts in helping landowners to rehabilitate or stabilize different sections of the river throughout the watershed.
Floods are a natural and regular occurrence in the Carson River watershed. In the Carson River watershed, open floodplain lands protect communities from potentially devastating floods by allowing floodwaters to spread out, slow down, and sink in.
Preserving the open floodplain lands using the living river approach balances the river's natural form and function with various land users. By allowing floodwaters to access their floodplains, flood risk is reduced, groundwater is recharged, and pollutants are filtered.
CWSD applies these same floodplain principles to alluvial fan drainage areas. When development occurs on alluvial fans, flash floods can inundate homes and communities in a short period of time. CWSD is working with counties to map alluvial fans and identify flood hazard areas to inform land use decisions.
Mapping alluvial fans and drainage patterns assists communities in the Carson River watershed by identifying alternatives to reduce flood risk.
Past mining practices severely contaminated the Carson River watershed. Today, polluted runoff is our new water quality challenge. Whether historic or current, these challenges continue to impact the clean water needed to grow food, replenish our groundwater, and recreate safely. The adopted Watershed Stewardship Plan guides integrated watershed management. Keeping our water clean is woven into every element of CWSD's watershed program and projects. The Stewardship Plan meets federal requirements to receive Clean Water Act Section 319 funding. CWSD strives to implement this plan to improve water quality throughout the watershed. Maintaining a stable water supply is a foundation of CWSD's work. Carson River watershed communities use surface and groundwater for a multitude of purposes. With limited upstream storage, the Carson River depends on the annual snowpack to meet our water needs. CWSD provides data and planning tools to local water purveyors and stakeholders, coordinating a balance between agricultural, municipal, and environmental water uses. CWSD helps fund invasive species eradication in cooperative weed management areas throughout the watershed. Invasive species can wreak havoc in the watershed, outcompeting native plants and animals and degrading water quality.
Water pollution can wreak havoc, but so do invasive weeds and aquatic species. They squeeze out native plants and animals and degrade water quality. CWSD funds cooperative weed management areas, conservation districts, and local governments to eradicate invasive species throughout the watershed.
CWSD wants everyone to realize they live in a watershed and their actions matter. By instilling this sense of place, CWSD envisions a community that acts to improve the health of the Carson River watershed. Outreach and education is an important element of letting people know how their actions can impact the health of the watershed. Since 2000, CWSD has helped support River Wranglers. This nonprofit organization works with schools to provide hands-on education and connect students to the Carson River watershed.
The Carson River watershed is our home. CWSD provides opportunities for residents to learn about this awesome watershed by experiencing the Carson River for themselves at events like Conserve the Carson River Workdays.
CWSD's programs encourage everyone to explore the Carson River watershed. However you recreate, whether boating, biking, hiking, or taking a scenic drive, you gain an appreciation of the landscape and become invested in its challenges. A healthy watershed promotes a healthy community. Plus, it's just plain fun. The Carson River is a 184-mile lifeline which connects our communities. And today, the future of our watershed is bright, thanks to the efforts of many dedicated individuals and local, state, and federal agencies and organizations. We're excited to keep working alongside our partners to maintain the delicate balance of the Carson River and its watershed, a place we are proud to call home.